Hello.
Hello, everyone. It's here. The Ahsoka finale.
Hello
We
there.
are the Ahsoka After Show. My name's Jonathan,
I'm Mike.
Bryce.
and today we're going to review the season finale of what was the name of the show? Ahsoka.
The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
That's
Nice.
a great title for that. That's a great title for that. Is that? What was the actual title? Is that the actual title?
That's the actual title.
Oh.
The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. So,
I didn't
and
know that.
goes to my first bullet too. So,
Okay. So let's dive right into this. What are you guys' initial thoughts? Did it live up to your hopes, dreams, and all that?
I'll start off and let you know that I am a Star Wars lover, and I just want more content. So, I love Resistance even. So, yeah, of course it did. I loved it. Um, it. I mean, I would have loved it more if I had Callus, and Zeb. But I'm super happy with Ahsoka. I think it was great. I loved it.
All right. So my quick thought is it's perfect for what it is. And that was the big problem for a lot of people. Everyone thought it was going to be this, and then we go to the movie. This is not enough for the movie. This is the tip of the iceberg. As long as it is, this is Iron Man. This is the first good movie. Or maybe I guess Mando was the first, but it's just one movie really introducing these characters, and it's going to have a lot more into a big series. It has to be, especially the way it ended. Like it has a lot more to show us, and so I'm good with that. I was concerned too because everyone's like, well, the movie's like in 3 years. There's not going to be time for anything else. We have to have more stuff before. So I'm glad that it obviously we have to have more after the way it ended. So to me, this is, let's say, hopefully only like 10% of the story of the bigger story. And so we have a lot more stuff coming out to build up to this movie. Or maybe the movie's something like how Avengers and not like Infinity War, and how it was kind of bring everyone together for down the road, for even a bigger thing down the road. So maybe there's some more movies coming around down after Filoni, something like that, which I would hope. Because this, it was great for what it is, introducing us to these 4 characters, 5 characters. There's a lot of characters introduced us to that point. So, and really didn't end anything, just ask questions. So I could, in that sense, I really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. And let me just remind you that we did have to wait once upon a time 3 years for the next content. So 77 was Star Wars, 3 years later was Empire Strikes Back, and 3 years later was Return of the Jedi. So there was a time when waiting 3 years for new content was not unheard of. So
yeah. Beat of the Rice, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed the show. I was left with more questions at the end than answers. And I've kind of still been trying to process some things. Like, I certainly was glad that my prediction last week with Ezra not making it was wrong. However, I still have some weird feelings about that.
To jump ahead a little bit, when he was falling down, I was like, Bryce was right. She pushed him.
I know. Well, there's still time for him to die.
Well, all right. So let's just get right into this, guys. Well, let's start. Let's hit the notes.
All right. So my first note is the title, the Jedi, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Obviously, I mean the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. That's obviously a riff off of C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which sees our chosen protagonists who travel from one realm to another through a wardrobe to save them from evil, just as our heroes Ahsoka, Huyang, and Sabine had to travel from one galaxy to another to save the Star Wars galaxy from Thrawn. So that was the first thing, right? Did you see any other connections?
I just say I did not know those titles because I watched it last night when this is part 8, and then I sleep, work, and then I sleep again, and I never really get a chance to even rewatch it or nothing, or even look into notes. That is probably one of the best titles I've ever heard for these
See,
Ahsoka shows, any of these shows. I love that. And to
I'm
me,
glad you. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
it's
Sorry. I'm chomping at the bit here.
really it's another world, another universe. And if
Another
that's where we're
galaxy.
at, and
Another
that's
galaxy.
well, no, it's the language in the wardrobe. It's another
Oh,
galaxy
right, right.
universe.
It's another
It's just another
universe.
dimension,
Right,
something
another
like that.
dimension.
And almost that's what you can see that's called this with Star Wars because there's only one way to travel there. It's a wardrobe or a whale. There's not going to be a lot of ways to go back and forth.
Right.
So they're kind of in that world now, so they have to now adapt to that world. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, some people are gonna get stuck in this world. I just don't see them hitchhiking with Thrawn. It's just how's that gonna go? So it's kind of I'm glad we're there. So now we have to have more stories there. So I'm really
Mhm.
excited about that. So the title worked great for me. I loved it. And one of my favorite books, the original movies, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the newer movies, I loved all those movies. So I a really great title for me.
Bryce?
So yeah, I guess I didn't really tie it to C.S. Lewis, but it makes sense. I thought it was more of a play on those alternate title books, like The Princess, the Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy. Remember the original trilogy? They had alternate names for them that they did this like funky publishing. So that's what I thought. The name was kind of like maybe a play off of those books from the original trilogy that came out. So that's my interesting take on the name of the episode. But it makes sense when you think the wardrobe, but how they get to a different world, and you can't always go back. You have to find a different mean, right? Like C.S. Lewis, like you can still get back to Narnia, but how we're going to do it this time is not the same as what we did through the wardrobe. So,
Mhm.
that's I think a great connection. I didn't make that. I just thought it was a little bit more on those alternate books that they came out with.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely reminds me of those.
Nice. So then my next bullet is with the cargo fully loaded on the Chimera, Thrawn plans his departure from Peridia, but he first sends out two TIE fighters to take out Ahsoka's ship because it's been identified where they found it. So he sends out only two because Thrawn's the tactician, so that makes perfect sense for him that he wouldn't risk all his fleet. He's like, two is reasonable. I can lose two. I don't mind. So he sends them out to go and attack them. And
I was definitely kind of blown away when I saw the amount of sarcophaguses, whatever you want to call these, because when we saw that little digital display, it looks like there's 25 of them. When he kind of has on the screen, it's slowly filling up. I was like, let's should take more than an hour, not 3 days or whatever, through rotation.
right.
And
But there were a
then
lot more.
and then you get the Ark of the Covenant scene. It's like, oh, it's a warehouse filled with these. That makes more sense. Because at first I was like, this is kind of silly. Why are we dragging this out? But now, when you see the full scope, there's a lot. So that makes way more sense.
Mhm. Bryce, any comments?
Um, from the sarcophagus standpoint, no. I mean, just seeing the visual and understanding that there's just a lot. I mean, you got to think of how many troopers and whatever else is on a star destroyer. Anyway, so it didn't really surprise me because when you looked at how many troopers were there, it was part 6 when Thrawn came out. Um, Made sense that there was going to be more sarcophaguses, and they may not all be former Empire people. They could be people that the Great Mothers were keeping there as well. So they could be former sisters that they plan on resurrecting once they get to Dathomir. So,
Oh, you think there
um,
might be some stormtroopers in those?
oh yeah,
Oh, I
I,
thought it
I
was just ancient bodies. I thought it was just like witches
I
over
don't
in the
think they ever
galaxy.
said one way or another. I
They
they
didn't
think
didn't.
say,
that
They
but
didn't.
I'm just
They
assuming. So
didn't.
maybe you're onto something.
I think it's
Yeah.
both. I think it's
I think
both.
it's both
To be
too. I think it's
honest,
both
yeah,
because I think the way to get the Dathomiri mothers to collaborate with Thrawn is they have to be getting something out of it. So he did bring them
100%.
back. He brought them back, but then he thought because Thrawn, if you've read all the books, you know that he's a tactician, so he's always got a move like he's got to give something to get something. So it's always a quid pro quo with him. And so I think the mothers are the same way though because they're the they're definitely more dark-sided than light-sided because they're very selfish and always about what can I do to help myself. And so I think the mothers, he promised them, well, I can restart your whole clan again. Take all of you back into the Star Wars galaxy, and you can bring everything back. And but help me bring my uh, fallen soldiers also back with me. So I think, yeah, I think it's a blend.
Yeah, definitely. Their reason to do this isn't for the Empire. We get that line later. He goes, "For the Empire," and she's like, "For Dathomir." Kind of like
Under her breath,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Under her
Well,
breath.
that's what Morgan says.
Elspeth.
so
Yes.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
So
Morgan
and
says
it's funny because Morgan's like, "Why do you want to send out two? They're far enough away. We'll be able to get out of here." And then Thrawn tells her, "Never underestimate a Jedi," um, because he knows. He says that he knows how he knows how he fell to the heroics of a single Jedi, which is referencing how Ezra was able to get Thrawn out of the Star Wars galaxy
that.
and to Peridea in the first place. It was just one Jedi who was able to remove him from the entire equation of the Empire's plan. So he's being cautious now. He learned.
yeah,
There was kind of like a moment, I think, I don't know if it was panic or fear in Thrawn's eyes. I don't know if you guys saw that during part of the episode when he is talking about that, but talks about how um, he knows Anakin real well. He knows Anakin's tactics. And I think
Mhm.
that Anakin kind of like he understood Anakin was very aggressive. As a even as a Jedi, was extremely aggressive, and I think
Mhm.
that Ahsoka he feels is the same way, unpredictable. To where I think there was a moment for him was like, I need to do whatever I can to either slow her down, whatever. And he makes it. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but the troopers that they send down to the gate, right? He says right to Morgan, "This is all the volunteers." He goes, and I think he said that that would be enough. But then there's this look of how fast they got dispatched that he had to make a choice in that moment as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, not only does he know Anakin, but he knows that Anakin is Vader, and he worked with both really closely. And if you read Thrawn Alliances, it gives you a good fill in of both stories of his experience with Anakin and his experience with Vader. And he does know that they're both one and the same, which is really cool because this series, Ahsoka, is the first time they gives us Anakin accepting both parts of his reality. Because when he was in the world between worlds with Ahsoka, he was both Anakin and Vader. So it's the first time we've seen that, other than in the book. But in the book, he's very against it. But now in this series, he's very much like reunified.
Right.
So the next thing, Morgan Elsbeth is rewarded by the Great Mothers with the gift of shadows, and she becomes
Yep.
a Night Sister. She's
Yes.
gifted with the blade of Talzin, which that's the blade that Mother Talzin. If you remember back
Right.
in the Clone Wars, she got that sword through her magic on Dathomir. So it's pretty awesome to see that again, because Mother Talzin had summoned that from the ether during her duel with Jedi Master Mace Windu. So that was pretty cool. Nice connection there.
when it's funny because when I saw that, I was like, "God dang it! Now I'm going to buy that."
Oh, yeah,
I
it's true
know.
too. Yeah, it's
And
true
and
too.
not only that, when Ezra makes his lightsaber, like, damn
Same
it, I didn't want
thing.
to buy it, but I
I
gotta buy
both
it
of us
now.
like, oh man, another one, just two from one show. I have to
But
buy.
that the blade of Talzin, it's gonna be like equivalent to the dark saber.
Yeah,
Because it's the only saber that exists for the Night Sisters, just like the dark saber is the only saber that exists for the Mandalorians. I have to have that blade. It
And
looks
Darth
pretty
Maul.
awesome.
yeah,
Huh?
Remember, Maul had it for a while too.
Right, but it's the only blade of that culture of
Right.
the Mandalorian blade. Uh, Maul had it, but it was still a Mandalorian blade. So yeah, I want that Mother Talzin. It's coming. It's coming.
I know.
It's gonna light up green. It's gonna be awesome.
I know. It's gonna flicker. It's gonna drive me nuts. It's gonna cost $300.
Right. So that brings
Easily.
that brings us to where Ezra, he's now on Hu Yang's ship, and Hu Yang has his shop on board, right, where he can build lightsabers. And Ezra's going crazy, like, man, all these things, let me build my lightsaber because he didn't have one. And I'm thinking there probably weren't any kyber crystals on Peridea, That's why he wasn't able to build one. And so now that they have him on, Hu Yang has kyber crystals in his shop, and so Ezra's getting busy building his own saber. And then Hu Yang's like, "What are you doing?" He doesn't approve of his methods. He's like, "Who taught you to build one anyway?" And Sabine answers, "It was Kanan Jarrus." And then,
that was dope. I like that.
yeah, that was pretty cool. And then Hu Yang's like, "Oh, no wonder." He's like, "Well, guess who taught Kanan how to build his
No,
lightsaber?"
he actually said Caleb.
He,
So
he
they used
did
both
he,
his name.
He
Yeah.
says
he
Caleb.
acknowledged him as Kanan and then said Caleb.
Yeah, I thought that was cool
Right,
too.
right, because he was Caleb when he taught him as a youngling. So that was pretty cool. That was his name before Order 66.
Just love that Hu Yang has so many spare lightsaber parts. Oh, yeah, some spare crystal. This is spare mirrors. I'm just like, that's so cool. You may probably make dozens of lightsabers in the shop. So I think that was really cool.
I bet he has more than Savvy's workshop. He has
Yeah.
so much in there. It's like all those drawers. I loved it.
Yeah.
I don't think he has as many as you, but he's got a lot.
He's got more. So Hu Yang gives, and then he tells him how Caleb was a curious, clever, shy little boy, and then he gives him the one piece that Kanan used to make his lightsaber, and he had a spare that he was
That was his
saving
emitter.
for the emitter. It was the spare he was saving
Yeah.
just in case Kanan had lost his, or Caleb,
Yep.
so he could replace it. So then he thought, I think it's deserving that you have it to build your lightsaber.
So
Yeah,
and
that
then
was very cool sequence.
is that
Yes.
the one that's he can just detach, keeps detached a lot? Kanan always has it like in two parts. Is that the same piece?
That was the emitter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's how Kanan took it. He took the emitter
Yeah,
off.
that's right, and he would snap it together. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, because Ezra just snaps it back on.
So it'd be kind of cool if Ezra does the same thing. You see him in the next season or his show, the Ezra show, because he's not going to be with Ahsoka. Maybe that's his own show. But if he always says detached, nice little throwback to that.
And then when Ezra quickly built his saber and he ignites it and it's perfect, right?
Like
and then
lightning, dude. He's like, got it.
And then Hu Yang's like, "Wow, you're a good student." And then Sabine's overhearing this, and all she's ever heard is, "You're the worst student I've ever had." So that had to sting, that had to sting. And she's visibly bothered. You see her face. She's visibly bothered at hearing this because he's only told her she was the worst.
I think that why she walked away was when Hu Yang said,
"Oh, that's coming up."
The bond between the bond between a master and his apprentice is almost as good as like the bond between I think the Jedi and the lightsaber. I think
it's even beyond exactly, that. But I think it's because Ezra was going to ask her if Ahsoka had taught her how to build her lightsaber yet. That's what I intuited from that, because his lightsaber looks and is the same color as Kanan's. So when he turns to ask Sabine, because he just built his, he's going to ask her if Ahsoka taught her how to build hers, only to discover that she's no longer there, right? And that's when Ezra asks Hu Yang, "What happened with Sabine? What happened between them?" And then we get the backstory. But
which I really appreciate. So I was thinking afterwards that 2-minute scene in this little teeny tiny lightsaber workshop was almost felt like a reshoot. Like we need to add this, we need to add this, we need to add this, we need to get the lightsaber in there. You need to make lightsaber. We need to talk about Kanan. Oh, and why don't we also add the exposition of why Ahsoka stopped training Sabine? A lot of cool stuff added into that. Almost as like I thought it was like, oh, this is like a reshoot. But it had so much stuff really necessary.
But Jonathan, it's also a setup for like a comic series or a book or something else, where we could see that whole thing played out. But at least it tells us so that we know. This series was really good at on-ramping new fans to Star Wars, because it gives you the quick background. Even if you've never seen any Clone Wars, you've never read any books or any comics, it's a quick study for anybody. Because Sergio's been watching it and he doesn't really know all the things, but he was able to follow along and everything makes sense to him. So I think it's great. I think they're doing a great job.
It's a good way to get people toes wet, but want more. It's like a free sample. Like,
but also not feel totally lost. And not feel totally lost because they get the full story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just, that whole sequence, I was like, God, some of the stuff I've been needing. Like, give me a couple minutes scene that tells me everything. And I thought the explanation was great.
Yeah,
they just did the
Siege on Mandalore.
And you can see, I guess Ahsoka can see Sabine losing it. Obviously, if I just saw my whole family slaughtered, I'd be losing it too. So
Mm-hmm.
let's maybe not do that. There's no reason to train, honestly, because there's no reason to train because the war's over. We don't need more Jedi. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, why would I risk making a new Sith, an unintentional Sith? Now the war's over, so makes total sense to me. I thought it was great. So, but what
Mm-hmm.
it also does, it tells me it means that Ahsoka was training Sabine during the original trilogy. Because from what I understand, they said they bombed Mandalore, wiped up on her at the end of the Galactic Civil War. So maybe close to Return of the Jedi. So I'm assuming that means Ahsoka and Sabine were training at that time period. That it's kills me because it's not in the timeline book we
Right.
bought. There's no Tears of Mandalore, whatever it's called, in the timeline book we bought
Mm-hmm.
3 months ago. But that's what I'm kind of assuming. So I'm thinking Ahsoka and Sabine were training during Return of the Jedi, or maybe The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi is when they bomb Mandalore, and that's when she stops training her because it's like there's no reason to train her anymore. I loved it. I would like
Well,
a little more clarity on the timeline, but I'm putting it together, fill in the blank a little bit. What I assume it is.
I think it's because she had all that anger. And
Yeah.
so they said fear, but it's that anger. And if she continued to train her, and that anger will lead to the path to the dark side, which is very seductive. And so because she knew that her mentor, her master, Anakin, had gone the path of the dark side because of a similar path, she knew that this can happen. And Anakin was so strong to begin with, and even he succumbed to the dark side. So she probably thought, you know what, let me just avoid this. Similar to like Luke's feeling with Ben, deciding like, I can sense the darkness in him, what he's going to become. Should I not? Should I stop training him? That indecision.
When did that happen? I don't remember that.
Shush you. It hasn't happened yet. It will.
No, it won't. So,
So the one thing that Ezra says after Hu Yang talks about, well, it's Night of a Thousand Tears when they did the
Mm-hmm.
wiped out Mandalore, but Ezra asked if Fen Rao was there. I thought that was a really cool nod to Fen
I
Rao's
must have
character from
totally missed
Rebels.
that.
Oh, I didn't hear that either. That's a good catch.
All
I
right,
missed
yeah.
that.
Yeah, he said because he just sits there. He goes, Fen, and you can tell by Hu Yang's response that he definitely was one of the casualties. So it was
Oh,
kind of a cool little nod to Rebels that was one thing that Ezra talked about because they kind of had a bond, right? Like even though Fenn started off like as feeling like he's a prisoner and all this other stuff, and eventually becomes
a rebel.
part of the
Yeah.
rebels.
Right, right.
But he obviously went back to Mandalore when they needed him, just like Sabine did. But he didn't survive.
That is pretty cool. I'm gonna have to watch it again. So, and I've
I
seen it a
missed
couple
that
times
too.
already. I missed it. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So then, uh, we find out that Ahsoka stepped out. She did some fresh air, so she went out onto the wing, and Ahsoka's sitting on top. And Ahsoka tells Sabine that she's not mad at her because she's made her own difficult choices over the years, and she tells her that Anakin always stood by her side, even though others didn't understand, and even if he didn't understand her choices, he still stood by her side, and that's why she tells her she'll always stand by Sabine's side. So that's a good reflection on Sabine's part because at first she was like, you have to not betray me, and you've got to make sure I told you to do this, you have to do it. So even though she saw what happened, I know she was bothered when she saw those force echoes of how Sabine gave Balin the map. But then in her reflection, she realized, you know what? Only the force knows why things happen, so I just need to stand by my Padawan. And so she knows she has my support no matter what. And I thought it was really touching, and it's a good bonding moment between the two of them.
I mean, it's one of those. It's too late to be upset, and I kind of have that mentality. It's like, oh man, something terrible happened. Whatever, it's got to deal with it. It's find the best side of this, and so I really
But you
like
know
that.
what? I
It's
think
that
it's more
dwelling.
than that. I think it's more. I think Ahsoka's grown, and because this is a different Ahsoka, and so she's seeing things differently than it's pre-Ahsoka the White or Ahsoka the Gray, whatever she is now. So in her
She's
previous,
Ahsoka the White.
yeah, she's Ahsoka the White now. But prior to her being Ahsoka the White, she didn't think this way. And I think afterwards, it made her reflect on all her experiences and say, you know what? It was that lesson with Anakin because that's when she realized, you know what? He stood by me no matter what, and she realized that he was a great master for her. So that's what she wants to be for Sabine. And then Ezra comes out all excited, proud of the saber, and we get the Tie Fighter attack. The two
Right.
ties that Thrawn had sent out, um, and they hit the ship stabilizers, and then the ship's gonna fall. So Ahsoka's like, Ezra, with me now, and they fly off the ship, to protect the Nadi from getting smashed. And the Sabine's in there trying to like fix it, rig it so they can not crush the Nadi underneath.
So, from what I thought of this, was like, well, this might have been the first successful attack from Thrawn we've seen. So this is actually successful. The other thing is, I didn't quite understand why they were still with the Nadi. I felt like their presence was endangering the Nadi. It'd been better if the Nadi and them would have separated, because I didn't quite understand why they're still going 2 miles an hour, hanging out with them. They're going slow and they're endangering the Nadi. I think they should have just went to separate. I don't know. That's just story plot, but that was the first
Right.
successful attack by Thrawn. I was like, oh, they actually did something good, and I just get destroyed. So I thought that was cool.
Right. But then,
And I think,
go ahead,
oh,
Bryce.
I would say, I think part of that, the reason why they were still hanging out there is like because Ezra was building his lightsaber. Like that's why he was trying to do it so fast, is because they were. She's like, hey, I need to be ready so that we can go stop Thrawn. So I think that's part of it. It's like, hey, we might as well protect them until we have to go. So I think that was part of the reason why they were still with him, is they were still kind of waiting on Ezra to finish building his lightsaber so that they could then formulate the plan to go forward.
Right. Right. Well, so then after Sabine is successful with Hu Yang's help to destroy both of the Tie Fighters. It was pretty badass. And
She did a mini hold-on move.
yes, yes, but even better because she didn't die.
Yeah,
right. And the ship wasn't completely obliterated.
Correct. So more cost effective. So despite the aerial attack, the three of them make it to the fortress because they get on the howlers and they're like racing there because they have to make it. And then Thrawn, of course, sees, oh, it's going to be a ground assault. So he enlists the volunteer.
well, that's what, when that bombardment happened. You see how upset Thrawn got. He's like,
oh yeah, because he's scared shitless about Ahsoka because
he's
he
like,
knows.
we just hit them with everything this Chimera has, and we could have hit them once. And he's like, you can see.
Oh wait, and before that, when he gets the report, what happens? Like, oh, the attack was successful, but we haven't heard from them again. And he's like, okay, count that as a success and consider them lost, but still give that lieutenant or whoever a citation. So
Yeah.
the guy's dead, and he still like wants to write him up. Like, what a dick! He's gonna write him up after he's
It's
dead.
Thrawn, man.
Well, he's right though. He needs to write him up because he was unsuccessful.
Well, I think this is the first time I've ever seen someone write someone up in stars. Usually, it's Vader would just kill them or something. It's a little more.
But Thrawn, remember, Thrawn doesn't take life lightly. He doesn't like killing people just for nothing. So,
Oh yeah, you don't want to be killing your captains and generals. You want to motivate them. You don't want to be killing them.
Well, we don't know what issuing a citation is. Maybe Enoch's the one that goes and just kills the captain,
Like,
right?
this is the citation. He walks in.
We don't know what Enoch really is or what he does. He's still a mystery.
Well, we know he's cool, so he looks really great. He looks like those cops from THX 1138.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started using that reference at work, and people are like, "Where do you come up with this stuff?" I'm like, "I actually did. My buddy Mike did."
Yeah. So, then, despite the aerial attack, we see Sabine for the first time trying to use the Force too, right? Ezra's got his hand out. Ahsoka does too, and it's not enough. And Ahsoka tells Sabine, "Hey, help us out." So Sabine stretches out her hand, and I think she's starting to believe it. That she's starting to believe in herself a lot, and so she has her hand out to try, to open the door, and then so they're able to open it, and they're evading all that bombardment, which is like crazy because it's like rain, and they make it in and it shuts. And then they think, okay, we're in the clear, but then we get those troopers coming down. And Thrawn says, the three mothers, I need your help one last time. So he takes them into the study or wherever, up to the.
I wasn't putting those two together when you said, I need your help one last time. And then he said, I need the volunteers. I thought the volunteers were just going You're gonna help the Empire. You're not gonna come back. You're probably gonna die. If not, you're gonna be stuck here. That's all I got out of it. I didn't get that they were going to much just sacrificing their souls or whatever they were gonna do, turn into whatever they did. So I didn't
Oh,
catch that. I
that's
didn't
what
put
I thought.
when he first said, "Okay, I need volunteers." You show the volunteers. You thought that they were going to turn into what they did. I didn't put that together at all.
Well,
Um,
I always expected it because Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi, the game.
Well, I thought they were going to be something special too until they just got their floor wiped with them. Was an episode ago. Like, oh, they're nothing. This is just bandage armor because they have no new way to get new armor. So, and then it turns out it was something special. They just decided to hold on to it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
well, I think they were troopers when they went down.
Yeah,
I don't
Mhm.
think they
Well,
were definitely troopers,
they
but
changed.
They were troopers. Mm-hmm.
and then when he then calls on the Great Mothers, I need your help one more time. That's when the shadow magic was used to raise them from.
If you
Mhm.
listen, they
the
even
dead.
make noise, and some guys
Yeah.
are kind of
Oh, yeah.
they
They're
become
like
like
eyes-
talking with each
zombies.
other.
Their
Mhm.
eyes glowed green under their
Mhm.
helmets.
They definitely change.
They
Yep.
move differently.
Yeah, they were
Um,
definitely zombies brought back to life by the Great Mothers, and they were
Oh, yeah.
chanting that resurrection chant, and that was the first time. The first time we saw that was in the Clone Wars, but it's also a part of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So that's pretty cool, connecting all those three different pieces together. So I love all those connections to other franchise items. So I thought that was really great. Um, so the Great Mothers and Elizabeth are ready to leave, but Thrawn is concerned about the Jedi. So he's like, you know what? It's not enough. I need more time.
mhm.
So they call Elspeth forward and say, you know
Yeah.
what? It's going to be time for you to sacrifice. And she's like, I understand. And that's when Thrawn says, for the Empire. And then under her breath,
She
Elspeth
says for Dathomir, yeah.
For Dathomir. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because wasn't the Empire the ones that destroyed Dathomir? So I think
Yes. But Thrawn
Yes.
doesn't know that because Thrawn was gone when they decided to do that. Or
I
was
thought
he
they
there when
did
they did
Clone
it?
Wars. No, they before the end of the Clone Wars, they destroyed Dathomir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Thrawn, well, it wasn't the Empire.
Well, where was Thrawn? Where
It was
was
the
Thrawn?
Separatists that destroyed not the Republic. So the Republic is
I'm
the
trying to think
Empire.
when Thrawn was.
He was a general for the Republic, wasn't he? Or no, he wasn't around yet.
No, for the Empire.
Yeah, but he was with the Empire, so even during like the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, he was still with his people.
Shit, right?
Mhm,
Yeah,
the Chiss.
and I think because if you go back through the, I don't remember who wrote the Thrawn.
Tim
the
Zahn.
Thrawn was it? Yeah,
It's always
the
Tim
graphic
Zahn, yeah.
novel.
Mhm.
That he kind of rose up to power, but it was already the Empire, and I think
It was under the
Tarkin
Emperor.
was-
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely under the Empire.
he wouldn't have known anything about Dathomir unless someone told him.
Mhm.
I'm really glad that Dathomir's their mother's focus and not
Right.
blind loyalty to Thrawn.
Right,
Kind
right.
of was getting that. I was like, oh, she just really is loyal to Thrawn. But I'm kind of glad she has more.
Well, she was loyal to Thrawn because that was going to help her for her end game of getting
So she's
the
not loyal to Thrawn.
mothers.
She really needs Thrawn. Yeah, so it's different.
Right.
Yeah.
It's-
I would
Mhm.
maybe sacrifice myself for a cause I really believe. I'm not going to
right,
sacrifice
right.
I'm loyal to my general.
Well, she also did it for the mothers, and the mothers look at her too, the three mothers. And she's like, you know what? I've got to get them over there because they need to bring back the Dathomiri.
Yeah,
so
and I thought
definitely-
that's why she was okay with that, is because it was for
Mhm.
Dathomir, and I think she felt
Right.
betrayed by Thrawn because Thrawn turned to her and said, "I need more time." I don't think she was expecting that.
No, but
But then
I
she
think she expects
accepted
it.
it.
She expects it from Thrawn, right? And then
She
she
don't
willingly
want to do
does
it,
it.
but then
No,
she
but she
realized it was
expects it from him, but she's
necessary.
willing to do it for the mothers. Yeah. So she whispers for Dathomir. That signifies that the Dathomiri have ulterior motives for cooperating with Thrawn for the moment. That's for my notes. And so then we have that great face-off between Ahsoka and Elspeth. Pretty awesome, right? Her dual sabers against the blade of Talzin and Sabine and Ezra take down the two zombie night troopers, and Sabine
Well,
finally uses
those
the
were
Force.
Death Troopers.
Yeah.
Right.
Those were actually zombie Death Troopers.
No,
Like
And you
that
can see
that
you
was
can see the half mask
insane.
They were Death Knight
That was
troopers.
awesome.
when he had her up with his hand, and then the mask
Yes.
was broken. You could see his like rotting jaw falling off.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That's
Pretty
That
straight-
cool.
and they were immensely powerful.
Straight from Game of Thrones, like you
Oh,
that
yeah.
zombie and just picking them up and just like, oh wow, this is we've never had something like that. At least in even animation, I haven't seen anything like that.
No, that was pretty
Comics,
cool.
I think there's some stuff.
That
in
was
comics.
pretty cool.
It was really I
Uh-huh.
enjoyed that.
But I love that Sabine trying to use the Force to get her lightsaber back, and it has a little tremor like Luke did when he was hanging upside down, on Hoth,
Yeah.
in the cave, the Wampa cave, and then it just like flies into her hand, and she stabs him through the head.
Well, I like how she did.
Just like Kylo Ren did in The Last Jedi.
It was more like a shot, like put the thing, and it was like pretty cool. I like that.
And that's straight out of all the zombie movies, right? Double tap to the head. You gotta just
Yeah.
double tap to the
Right.
head.
So, yeah. So I think I had said that her Force powers are going to unlock because I thought Ezra was going to die. I kind of was a little right because it was her that was going to die that unlocked her Force abilities. And I was okay with it. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, this is nonsense. You shouldn't have the Force, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, has anybody ever watched Star Wars?
Yeah.
And heard Yoda even say in Empire Strikes Back back in 1980 that, we're not just these luminous beings, that, everybody, even Kanan has said it. Everybody has the Force.
Mm-hmm. And actually,
Even Ahsoka said it.
If you read the book of when Luke, there's a book of when Luke first, it's between A New Hope, right after New Hope, but before Empire Strikes Back. And Luke he's collected the stuff from Ben's hut, and he's studying on his own, right? Because he's all by himself. And he starts traveling to different cultures to learn more about the Force. And he finds these temples, and he starts training. But he's reading and learning that the Force, it's not something you manipulate. You just have to it's around you, and it does what it needs to do, and you just have to let it. So the Force knows what it needs to do. And I think at this point, as Sabine is learning to just accept it and not try to manipulate it herself.
Well, I mean, I might be wrong, but the first time we see Luke and Rey move something with the Force is when they called their lightsaber because they needed it. They're gonna
Yes,
die.
100%.
So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's kind of like adrenaline, push comes to stuff. It's time. We can't. I have to call this right now. It's no longer. I hope this works. This has to work. And so I think.
But you know what? It's like Donnie Yen's character too, though. When he says, "You know what? This has to work. Somebody has to pull that lever. I'm gonna trust in the Force and do it." So he walks out, even though he's blind, and all the forces keep protecting him. So you just have to trust in the Force. So it's not that
That's
they
just
command the Force.
stormtroopers are terrible.
No, it's the Force. So Sabine
Just
stretches out her
stormtroopers.
hand.
I
and
love Chirrut. He's one of my
I do too. I love him too.
favorite characters.
I love him too, and he's one of my LGBTQ characters too. So I love it. But yeah, she gets her saber, and that's pretty awesome. Ezra makes it to Thrawn's ship. So how does he get on the ship? They run up to the top. It's the ship's already gone. They're like, damn it, it's too late. We're not gonna make it. Ezra's like, I can't jump that far. And Sabine's like, you know what? Yeah, you can. I'll push you. And he's like, yeah, no, because he knows she doesn't really have the Force, or he thinks she does it. And she's like, come on, I can do it. And they're bickering. She's like, the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes.
I mean, when he first got there, maybe 10, 15 meters. And then by the time they jump, it's like 40 meters. I was like, come on, you guys are scale already.
But that was like,
where have we seen this before, though?
Maul threw him, right? When they were on Malachor.
Twilight of the Apprentice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maul did the same things, like, I can jump and I'll push you the last of the way.
Definitely an animated crossover. Like, you never seen like that in any Star Wars live action Star. This is like,
no.
All right, they're going to make this jump, and it's going to take straight from the animation. Like, they can only do this. So it was cool to see. But that's what I thought. Cool. I was like, oh man, he's dead. When he fell, I was like,
when he jumped and he wasn't making that arc, arc was like, oh, it's not gonna make it, and Sabine's like, boom, and he's like, whoa, and even
Yeah, I didn't.
Ezra's
I
like
didn't
shocked.
have any issues with that at that point. I knew that was going to happen. That Sabine was gonna push him.
Yeah.
Because he was then going to pull her. She was going to run, and
Right,
then he
right. He
was
was
going
gonna
to
pull
pull
her,
her.
which
And
he's
there
done
was
many
that
times in Rebels. So, or actually, Kanan had done to him, right?
Kanan had done it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Maul did it too. Maul did both. He did a push and he did a pull.
Right.
After Ezra had gotten the holocron, remember he had to jump back over,
Right. He had to
and we
trust
all
him.
thought for sure that he
He was
was
gonna
just going to take
drop
the
him.
holocron, and
That's
drop
what
him, and
I
he
thought
didn't do
too.
that.
Because don't trust the Sith. But you know what? Maul wasn't a Sith at that point. He was
And
just
he was
Maul.
he was just Maul.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So then Ezra makes it onto the ship, and he's trying to pull Ahsoka, but when she turns around, she goes back for the run because she is going to jump, but then that's when she sees Sabine is going to jump, but she sees Ahsoka battling with Elsbeth, and then she sees all the troopers coming too, and she realizes, you know what, I can't abandon my master.
Yeah.
There was a cliffhanger moment though, Mike, because she did turn her back on Ahsoka and start walking towards the ship, and then it pans back to Ahsoka, and I thought Morgan says something about her being alone, and that's when then Sabine's like, she's not alone. And that was like that moment, like, oh my gosh, like I honestly thought she just abandoned Ahsoka again. I really did.
I didn't think that at all. As soon as I saw she looked, I was like, she's gonna stay.
That's what I thought too immediately. When she saw Ahsoka, I think she's gonna stay.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't, because she turned
But
completely 180 and started walking away.
They filmed it that way, Bryce, though, because they intentionally filmed her look and turn around and go towards Ezra to make you think like, oh, is she gonna?
Well, I did. I fell for it.
But you know what? She could have done it because it was set up perfectly where it could have gone one way or the other. It's like the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Remember those?
Yeah.
And you could, like, if you think this is gonna happen, go to page 47. If you think that's gonna happen, go to page 30. So I love those books.
And I thought this was the moment that that Ahsoka might fall, and why we hear Ashley's voice in Rise of Skywalker. Like I when she turned her back, they went back to there. I was like, maybe this is it. Like,
well, there's still plenty of time for her to die. Still plenty of time for her to die.
No, I get it, but then I was like, then Sabine said something. I completely was like, holy cow! Like, I really thought she was gone because again, her whole focus has been Ezra.
Right.
Getting to Ezra, bringing Ezra home. Like, that's just been her main focus. And like the fact that she switched it, I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. Like,
well, I think once she got to Peridia and she found Ezra, she says, oh, you know, it's like game over, right? She found him, but then she's like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to think about all these things that I've done. What have I done, right? Let me reflect. And all the lessons she has learned, like with Ahsoka too, about it's more than just wielding lightsabers. Being a Jedi is more. So I think it's really sinking in, and she is becoming a true Jedi with Ahsoka's tutelage. So then Ahsoka kills Elsbeth, right? With her own sword.
But she loses a saber. So that was
she has a saber cut in half.
She cuts the little one, but she still has the samurai saber.
And they still have the garage with a million lightsaber parts. So.
Right. So she can make another one.
Hu Yang's got that under control.
But I love that battle between Ahsoka and Elsbeth. Now, Elsbeth is a lot more powerful now than when she first encountered her in Mandalorian. So
remember in the Mandalorian, Ahsoka lost the saber then too. It didn't get cut in half, but Morgan just dispatched it from her hand. So she had to fight her back then with one hand with that Beskar spear. Sphere. So that was kind of like a similarity, but obviously with Morgan being more powerful, she actually destroyed that saber.
So then she's able to kill Elsbeth, and then then all the troopers are coming up to attack them, and Ahsoka looks over at Sabine and says, "Come on, let's go." And it was like they just run and leap off because she used the communicator, and you
heard the beeps.
She bleeps.
Yep.
I missed that part. I did. I was like, wow, they really got lucky. I knew
she got a little notification, so she's like, "Oh, I got this." So
it's so quick though, Jonathan.
It's really quick. Yeah, I caught it because it was a little bleep. And so then she just runs, and then Sabine just knows to trust Ahsoka. She just knows implicitly this is what we have to do. And they run and jump, and all the troopers look over, and they're on the T6, and they get inside and they take off. And meanwhile, Thrawn's like leaving no stone unturned. He's like, barrage the temple, destroy it, because he knows that they're on there. So they do destroy it. It crumbles, and but
And the Grey Mothers were not happy about that. You could see the look on their faces, like, what did you just do?
Because that was their right. That's their Stonehenge. That's been there for millennia.
An ancestral site, but
Thrawn doesn't care.
They're not going to go back to that planet.
Is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does not.
Yeah.
It is an ancestral site, so I can see
and then
how.
Thrawn sends Ahsoka a message, right? And he tells her, well played, but I'm the victor here. And he calls her a Ronin. And a Ronin is a samurai. A samurai becomes a Ronin upon the death of their master. And he knows that Anakin was her master / Vader. So once he died, Ahsoka really is a Ronin. But the Ronin is also a former Jedi who broke from the Jedi rules and created the Sith. So that's from Star Wars Visions. That was the Ronin. So it's and she's got that potential to go down either path.
When I got Ronin, I got the leaving the order. That's what I kind of thought. She did leave the order, so like you're a lone samurai who kind of left the other samurai.
Right.
So that's kind of what I got out of it.
Still able to choose your own path, kind of thing.
He said something that you could tell. It's like it hit Ahsoka, something about her possibly becoming like a Vader. Like,
because he says that he knew her tactics because he knew that she had been Anakin's Padawan. So he knew that she was going to have similar tactics, and that's how he was successful.
Well, it's more than like her future. So like you follow the same path or something. Perhaps a good fall. I forgot the exact words, but it was definitely alluding to like maybe you might fall too because of how you were trained. You might become
and go to the dark side.
And she's really like glaring over. They really glossed over her eyes at that moment. She's like,
well, because she doesn't know, and that is a possibility, and it's kind of scary.
Maybe
I don't think it's a possibility at all at this point.
It's always a possibility.
Well, if Sabine dies by Thrawn, you can see Ahsoka snapping. So I can see that. That's probably the only way, but we'll see.
If Thrawn kills Sabine and Ezra and everyone all around her, and she's the only one left, she can snap and go dark side.
I don't think it needs to be everyone. I think just Sabine. If he kills Sabine, you're going to see some dark yellow eyes. But I think Ahsoka's maybe
flamingo eyes.
Yeah, flamingo eyes. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that's a possibility. But I think other ones are going to pass.
Yeah, I don't think she'll turn dark side either. Yeah. But the two do reunite with the Naughty, and then Mirai appears to Ahsoka, and she continues to watch over Ahsoka. Mirai was a female convor with spiritual ties to the daughter, which was a Force wielder from Mortis, and she appeared in various depictions to the Force wielders alongside the daughter. It's believed that it was believed by some that the convor in these depictions was a servant of the daughter, or even a manifestation of the daughter herself in another form. So Mirai became a friend of the former Padawan Ahsoka Tano, whom the daughter transferred her life essence to prior to her death, and came to accompany and watch over her. So Mirai was originally the daughter's like pet or whatever it was, but now once that essence transferred to Ahsoka, Mirai belongs to her. And then Tano even claims that she owns the convor for life now. It's part of her for life. So that was really cool to see the Mirai there.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting, those scenes. She's like staring off like twice. I was like, man, all we need is 2 sunsets because she's just staring off. But yeah, it's like she sees that, and then again she's doing it again, and then we all know what she saw that next time.
Wait, not yet, not yet. Because before that, then it cuts to Shin.
The scenes mirrored each other. It was very interesting. Both of them staring off. So.
No, not yet. This is only when Ahsoka's there with the Naughty, and she's the Mirai. It's still daylight, and then then we see Shin with the nomads, and Shin is like, what am I going to do? I've been abandoned by because she sees that the whole temple thing is destroyed, and Thrawn is gone. Chimera's no longer there. She doesn't have Baylan.
But does she see that though? Because where she seemed to be on the planet, I don't think she had any clue that Thrawn's gone, the thing's gone. I don't think she knows any of that. Because when she hightailed it
I think she knows she's
out of
abandoned,
there, I think she was abandoned by Balin.
but also by Thrawn. I think she knows that Thrawn's not going to wait around for her. I think she knows it.
I mean, I guess based on how they pulled the troopers back,
and they didn't tell her
I
anything.
I could see that, but she didn't stick around very much. She took off, but she also took off back in the same direction they were in. So at some point, she decided, okay, well, I don't want to go that way. Like I don't think she trusts Thrawn at all.
Well,
she didn't like the witches at all either. Remember?
Yeah, she was starting to question a lot of things.
A lot of
I
questions.
think she doesn't think they trust her. So to her, like, if I were her, I'd be like, they're going to see me as a threat. I'm not safe with them. I can't go back with them. That's what I kind of thought. But this is the first time I really gave some credence to Bryce's, not a prediction, but notice, his catch, that when she goes over there with the Marauders, I was like, she might turn them into something. And so I was like, maybe they could become something like Bryce was saying before.
Yeah, so, I think so too.
Yeah, so
because I did notice their headgear. It was varied.
It's so
yeah, and it's very, very calling towards the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I didn't, like she kind of sit there and then she just lights her lightsaber up above her head, and I was trying to figure out like what in the past or what from other like media like that would have been something like what did that symbolize, and I was having a hard time with that one. Like why did she just walk up and like throw the lightsaber up?
I think she's just showing them, look who I am. I'm the one that wields this saber, because there are no kyber crystals on this planet. So this is a unique weapon that even the Marauders are like, what is that? Hey, she's powerful. This is somebody that she's just asserting her power. That's what I thought.
And that very well could be. Yeah, like that was the only thing I was kind of like, okay, so why did she do that? So obviously there's story there.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously it breaks to your next point. I know what your next point is.
Balin?
Yes.
Yes. So then that cuts to Balin standing on the outstretched hand of the father statue. And the father's children, the daughter and son, are represented by light and dark sides of the Force. The father tested Anakin Skywalker and determined that he was the chosen one. And he wanted Anakin to stay on Mortis, which is in the Star Wars galaxy, not Peridia's galaxy. He wanted Anakin to stay on Mortis to bring balance to the Force, but Anakin declined.
We don't know that. I mean, we don't know where they're located.
But we do know from the story of because then we see he's on the father's hand. That's definitely the father because he's got the same headgear.
Straight from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And that kind of already looked like Lord of the Rings.
He's straight from.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But the
I got that feeling about that planet, that whole planet.
Yeah. But the likeness of that statue, it is the father.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's 100% the father.
It's the son.
But who you didn't see is the daughter.
Well, she's next to it, but it's destroyed.
The head's destroyed.
Yeah. And I just figured because that makes sense because she's the one that got killed on Mortis. But he's on the hand looking off to the distance, and you see a beacon flashing at the volcano.
What? I didn't catch that.
Yes, there's a beacon, and it's calling to him. I
did not catch that.
Yeah, okay. So the beacon is flashing in the distance, and then that beacon could be originating from the mother, because if you know the origin of the father and the son and the daughter, there's also the mother who was a human servant who became so beloved by the father, the son, and the daughter. She helped them to maintain order where they were originally from. But then she was human, so as she was getting older, they were not aging, but she was, and she didn't want to die. So what she did is she went to the she got her immortality by being corrupted by drinking from the font of power and bathing in the pool of knowledge, because she wanted to be there forever for the father, the son, and the daughter. And there is a cut sequence that was supposed to be in the Mortis arc of the Clone Wars that was going to bring in the mother, who becomes Abeloth after she bathes in the pool and drinks the water of power. But that corrupts her, and they decided, David's like, you know what? No, that's too much. It's going to be too much for casual Star Wars fans. They're not going to get it. But when that happened, it corrupted her and she became Abeloth, which is the bringer of chaos. She's essentially the devil. She's horrendous. And so the
Right.
father, the son, and the daughter had to leave, and they had to like trap her and leave her. So they probably had to trap her and leave her there on Peridia and travel to another galaxy to get as far away from her as possible. And that's how they ended up on Mortis, because they're not originally from Mortis. And
I mean, yeah, that's.
I know.
No,
but
but there were a lot of speculation out there that what was calling to Balin was Abeloth.
Yes,
yeah,
and this is all
and I
from
didn't catch
the
that beacon, so
yes, this is all from the Fate of the Jedi series. So there's a lot of books, Fate of the Jedi. So if you read that series, you'll learn
I was like
everything and more about Abeloth.
nine books
Yeah, it's a bunch. It's
and
a bunch.
only 3 authors, which I thought was really cool.
I
Is
just
that like one author wrote 3 books, another author wrote 3 books, and another author
But
did
they
I think
alternated. So they each wrote
Yep.
one book of the first trilogy, just like Legacy of the Force. That was the previous series of 9 and had 3 authors, 3 trilogies. But they each wrote one book of the first trilogy, one book of the second trilogy, one book of the third trilogy. So
And
I
wasn't
like that series.
Aaron Alston did
Yes.
3 of them? Troy Denning did 3 of them, and I can't remember the
But yes,
third author off the
those
top of my
really
head.
good. But
I'm
if we get
just
Abeloth, because it makes sense, because she's always calling for someone to like help release her, and then she like totally destroys them and invades them and corrupts them and just takes over and they're just gone, but they don't know it. And it's so bad that the Sith and the Jedi teamed up to fight Abeloth. That's how evil and awful she is. And do you remember in the Aftermath trilogy, the because Emperor Palpatine, or he kept saying there's something really evil out there beyond, and that's why he had sent Thrawn originally out to the. He was not in the area because he wanted him to find out what is this. It's calling to me. I hear it, and even Vader didn't believe him. Was like, "You're crazy, Master." But I think it was Abeloth because it's just it's so evil, dark side, and I think Palpatine wanted to like get that energy, that power.
I'm trying to like if they do go that route that there's an exile being on this planet that was the mother and now it's turned into the Abeloth and now it's this great demon monster.
Well, it's the source of the dark side, though. The source of the Sith. The because remember
Uh,
he wanted to find the origin. Remember, Balin says that.
yeah, I'm just trying to say is that if they do go that route and do it right, this would probably the most probably it could be the best Star Wars story ever if you think about it. Something that in depth, mythological, and stuff
Pretty
like that.
epic. Yes.
It would be very, very epic and very. The original Star Wars trilogy is great, but it's very kind of straightforward and linear, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's not a lot of depth or like crazy stuff like this would be. Could be an
Right.
amazing. They have to tell it right. They have to take their time, but it could be an amazing story. So it's kind of like mind blowing to think about it.
Right. Right. And so then Ezra reunites with Hera and Chopper. Right. He steals a Lambda class shuttle from the
Well, no, that's
Chimera.
not just any of them. That might. Oh no, never mind. It is just a regular, but it's identical to Shin and Balin's.
Well, it's standard Imperial uh, order. So it's standard Imperial order shuttle. And so he steals that Lambda class shuttle and he's flying in. And then the droid, Chopper's the only one that recognizes Ezra. He knew it. So he goes right up to him. They're all scared with the guns out. And he has that reveal like when Vader gets to check on the progress on the Death Star. Right. He walks out. Pretty cool. And then it cuts back to Peridia, where we have our oh, you know what? There was a complaint about that cut because he takes off his mask and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's Ezra." He's like, "Hello, Hera." You know, everybody's happy, and he starts walking towards her, and you know they're gonna embrace, right? They're gonna hug, and we don't get to see the hug. It swipes to Peridia. It's like, why didn't you let us see the hug?
I bet you they hugged,
I have a
Of
but
course,
theory behind that.
of
it got
course they
cut.
hug, but why didn't
Yeah.
they let us see him hug? So
I have a
that's
theory
fine.
behind that.
What's your theory?
No, we'll get it to the end because I have a
Okay.
couple. I actually have a couple theories, and I don't know why.
Bryce has notes, huh?
Well, this is the end because my last note is we cut back to Peridia, and then Sabine and Ahsoka. Ahsoka's first staring off into the rings of Peridia. Very beautiful,
Yep,
right? Because it's like the Milky Way galaxy. It's
it's
gorgeous.
not the it's the graveyard.
Well, I know, but it looks
It's
beautiful,
it's
right?
It
yeah,
does.
it's just bones floating.
It's a beautiful graveyard.
It's beautiful. And so then she's staring off, and then Sabine comes up and she stares off too, and then she's leaving. But then Sabine's like senses something, and Ahsoka's like, "What?" She's like, "No, it's nothing." Sabine leaves, and then Ahsoka stares off, and she feels it too now. And so they've both felt it, but I don't know if Ahsoka sees it because she turns and walks away, and then we see
Yeah,
Anakin's
I don't think
right
she
there.
saw it because Sabine says something in the shadows out in the stars or something like that is how she
Right,
described it.
right.
Yeah, no, I don't think she did. And then the manifestation of, Force Ghost Anakin shows up. I thought that was really cool. And that he
That
was
was
smiling. He
cool.
was happy that
That they're
Ahsoka.
together. Ahsoka's there. She chose life. Yes, and he's seeing them. So I love that too. That was really good.
Yeah,
And that's the end of
no,
my
that was
notes,
really good.
guys. And I've got like a minute or two left before I have to hop off. But
Yeah, I know you do. So my thing, still something with Ezra doesn't sit right with me. I don't know why, but he talks in the one episode about going home 3 times. Like, but the one time he's like, it's pretty important that I get home, or getting home is pretty important. Like he was stressing getting home, which is what led me. And I know, Mike, you started to agree with this, even though you didn't want to. Like that might happen.
Mhm.
But then it's like, okay, well now it's Ahsoka, and then was that the twist? But I also got thinking, like, what if Ezra isn't Ezra? What if Ezra is Abeloth? What if the reason why Ezra is wanting to get home so bad is because he is actually already possessed by Abeloth? And at the beacon, now that I didn't see the beacon, but you bring up the beacon, the reason that beacon's calling to Balin, but then Balin finds that Abeloth's not there. What
Mm.
if this heir to the Empire thing doesn't have Thrawn as the main bad guy? What if it's Abeloth? What if what if Sabine just again unleashed chaos back in the other galaxy?
She didn't get anything out of this then.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I just thought about that. Like what if because some I get the blue eyes, but they're almost too blue. Like I get doing something from animation to live action, but like they're too blue. They're almost too blue. So I'm just curious if
So
Ezra is not who
it
he
would
really is.
be great storytelling to make that happen. You'd have some writing, but I think it'd be great.
Yeah,
storytelling.
exactly.
Yeah, you'd be great. I mean, nobody's expecting it, and then one scene, something's happened bad or something, and then you find out that you look at Ezra and his mouth kind of opens up with a big smile or something. Yeah, so like, holy crap!
That's some Ryan Johnson shit right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great storytelling, but people be like, oh my god, but no one would see it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
I'm just throwing that out there, right? I mean, I don't know if
some
it makes.
cojones to take that
I don't.
step, but it'd be
I
great
don't know
storytelling.
if it makes sense because Chopper could sense that it was Ezra in the
Yeah.
suit,
knew it was
but
Ezra.
Well, if you could fool Ahsoka, you can fool Chopper. So to
Mhm.
me, it's like
True.
Chopper isn't the. If you could fooling Ahsoka, having her hug him, if Abalon is him, is powerful, she could fool Ahsoka. So Chopper's not going to be.
yeah, I just just throwing it out there.
Hey, it's. I mean, I think it's great storytelling, but
I mean,
a lot of people would be upset unless they can purge her.
but
from
remember, it took
him.
both the dark side and the light side to beat her.
Well, I
Right?
said if they have to kill
Yes.
Ezra, it's going to make people pretty upset. If they can like kind of purge her spirit or whatever, it might save it. But yeah,
You cannot purge Abeloth.
Well,
You
we
just
can
I
do
was
it.
gonna say, like,
You got to kill the host. So,
yeah. What if?
I mean, they can kind of make up whatever they want. So it's
that's
just,
true. That's
I mean,
true.
we've seen it before where things have possessed, where things have possessed a being, and that being is actually already dead. You know what I mean? Like Ezra could have already been killed on Pridia, and Avalon took his form.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
Very interesting. Well, guys, let's go. I'm going to rush it off to final thoughts so I can hop off. But
yeah. You gotta
final
go.
thoughts, guys.
I'm really happy with it. Well, I had to temper my expectations a little bit because I don't think it's its own complete story arc. I think it's just the tip of a story arc. So once I kind of did that, it became a lot better for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everyone. Finally got to see Thrawn do some cool things, actually win some.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I'm excited for what's next. Little disappointed to see more Balin in the season finale because he's my favorite character. And that's kind of how we're going to get to see Ray Stevenson. So I'm hoping they recast him with a really, really good actor. I hope they really do the due diligence and get a
Leave
really good.
Schreiber.
I know he would be good.
He would be amazing.
Yeah.
Not that anybody can replace Ray Stevenson. He can't.
Uh,
But Liev Schreiber has the
But he
physical
can play the
attributes,
character. Yes.
and he can act.
yes,
I think that would be the next best thing to Ray Stevenson. Would be Liev Schreiber.
So final thoughts, Bryce? Oops, sorry.
No, I was saying that's it. As long as they do the due diligence.
Yeah. I love the series. The finale definitely spoke to me more of we're going to probably get a second season versus this, not seeing them for 4 more years until the movie, unless somehow they tie it into Mando season 4, or somehow they tie it into the Skeleton Crew, or they tie it into a Book of Boba Fett season 2. If they do that, I don't know. I just had it hard to believe that we're not going to see them until the movie. Somehow they've got to be incorporated back into the story before Dave's movie comes out. But
right, yeah,
my final thoughts.
I loved it too, and I think for what it was, I always knew it was going to be a bridge series, bridging to something else, and I think we will get more of our characters in season 4 of Mandalorian, which is coming up, and I think the other shows coming up are also going to blend them in. So, but overall, very pleased. So, Jonathan.
All right. Yeah. So let's just, if you like our show and you really enjoyed this, please subscribe on YouTube at the Virtual Cantina Network, on Instagram at Virtual Cantina Network, on X at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at Virtual Cantina Network, and on Hive, whatever that is, at Virtual Cantina, and on TikTok at Virtual Cantina. Just look up Virtual Cantina anywhere. You should be able to find us somewhere.
Thank you for joining us, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
See
we'll
you
be
next
back
season.
with the next show.